Hello, my name is Ben Bliss, and I am a native of Prairie Village, Kansas, and I've been asked to participate here with the Library Lets Loose because I suppose that maybe some folks would think of me as a celebrity, which amuses me greatly. Anyway, I am an opera singer by trade. And my most recent place of employment is the Metropolitan Opera. I'm going to read to you some excerpts from my favorite book, which is by John Steinbeck, one of the great American authors. And this book is called East of Eden. It takes place in California in the early 20th century. And I lived in California for a long time after I left Kansas City. And I always loved that my favorite American author referred to California as basically Eden, and I couldn't agree more. It's a beautiful place. This chapter is from the middle of the book, and it involves a kind of philosophical, religious discussion among the characters. This is John Steinbeck's East of Eden. Do you remember when you read us the 16 verses of the 4th chapter of Genesis and we argued about them? I do indeed, and that's a long time ago. 10 years nearly, said Lee. Well, the story bit deeply into me, and I went into it word for word. The more I thought about the story, the more profound it became to me. Then I compared the translations we have, and they were fairly close. There was only one place that bothered me. The King James Version says this. It is when Jehovah asked Cain why he is angry. Jehovah says, "If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him." It was the "thou shalt" that struck me, because it was a promise that Cain would conquer sin. Samuel nodded, and his children didn't do it entirely, he said. Lee sipped his coffee. And then I got a copy of the American Standard Bible. It was very new then, and it was different in this passage. It says, "Do thou rule over him." Now this is very different. This is not a promise, it's an order. And I began to stew about it. I wondered what the original word of the original writer had been, that these very different translations could be made. Samuel put his palms down on the table and leaned forward, and the old young light came into his eyes. Lee, he said, don't tell me you studied Hebrew. I want to know why you were so interested. Well, it seemed to me that the man who could conceive this great story would know exactly what he wanted to say, and there would be no confusion in his statement. You say, the man. Do you then not think this is a divine book, written by the inky finger of God? I think the mind that could think this story was a curiously divine mind. We have had a few such minds in China, too. All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, because it's a little bit long. Let's see, where's my next section? Okay, back at it. These words are very important. Thou shalt and do thou. And this was the gold from our mining. Thou mayest. Thou mayest rule over sin. The old gentleman smiled and nodded and felt the years were well spent. It brought them out of their shells. And right now, they're studying Greek. It's a fantastic story, and I've tried to follow, and maybe I've missed it somewhere, but why is this word so important? Lee's hand shook as he filled the delicate cups. Don't you see? The American Standard Translation orders men to triumph over sin, and you can call sin ignorance. The King James translation makes a promise in thou shalt, meaning that men will surely triumph over sin, but the Hebrew word, the word timshel, thou mayest, that gives a choice. It might be the most important word in the world. That says the way is open. That throws it right back on the man, for if thou mayest, it is also true that thou mayest not. Don't you see? Yes, I see. I do see. But you do not believe this is divine law. Why do you feel it's important? Ah, said Lee, I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. I even anticipated your questions and am well prepared. Any writing which has influenced the thinking and the lives of innumerable people is important. Now there are many millions in their sects and churches who feel the order do thou and throw their weight into obedience. And there are millions more who feel predestination in thou shalt. Nothing they may do can interfere with what will be. But thou mayest, why, that makes a man great. That gives him stature with the gods, for in his weakness and his filth and his murder of his brother, he has still the great choice. He can choose his course and fight it through and win. Lee's voice was a chant of triumph. Adam said, "Do you believe that, Lee?" "Yes, I do. It is easy, out of laziness, out of weakness, to throw oneself into the lap of deity, saying, 'I couldn't help it, the way was set.' But think of the glory of the choice that makes a man a man. A cat has no choice. A bee must make honey. There's no godliness there. I have no bent towards gods, but I have a new love for the glittering instrument, the human soul. It is a lovely and unique thing in the universe. It is always attacked and never destroyed, because thou mayest." So that is a section from my favorite book, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Thanks so much for having me participate in this, and I look forward to seeing you all at the library Let's Loose in September. I'll see you then, and if not before, maybe I'll see you at the opera. Thanks a lot.
Johnson County Library is where people explore, enjoy, and connect with ideas and materials that enrich our lives. Support the library and join us at Library Let's Loose Virtual Edition on September 12th. Learn more at libraryletsloose.org.